Is a wonderful thing to be able to share about God's principles by focusing not just on health, but specifically on mental health. So we're going to be talking about thoughts today. And I want to start with a question. How many thoughts do you think we have a day? Try to make your best guess, and then hold on to that guess in your mind. We'll come back to it. And of those thoughts, how many do you think are negative? What percentage? 10%, 50%, 90%? Research shows us that we average about 6,000 to 50,000 thoughts a day. And some of you, maybe more of the overthinkers, might be even beyond the 50,000, but we think a lot. And of those thoughts, this is even more surprising, 80% is negative. Yes, someone whistled over there. 80%. Now, why do we have these thoughts? Many times we think we just have thoughts because they're just my thoughts. But the Bible shares a truth about our thoughts, that these negative thoughts, these negative lies, come from the devil. That Jesus specifically says in John 8:44 that he is a liar and the father of all lies. They're not just thoughts, they come from the devil. And why does he want to tempt us, you might ask? Well, he knows this truth found in Proverbs 23, as a man thinks, so is he. In other words, our thoughts determine who we are. I love this quote that expounds upon this idea that says, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Actions become habit. Habits become character. Your character determines your destiny. In other words, with Christians, our character, our thoughts leading to our character can even determine salvation. Satan knows that our thoughts have power. And that's why he tempts us in many different ways. And in mental health, we call these cognitive distortions, these lies that the enemy sells. Now, I don't have time to cover the main 10 distortions, but this is not just a nugget. This is also a teaser. For next month, I'll be giving a full presentation on our thoughts, how we can find freedom through keeping every thought captive to Christ. Changing our thoughts can really change our lives. Now, I won't just leave you with that. I'll give you one distortion, and one that actually came up in my devotions this past week, and that is fortune telling. This is when we predict that something's going to happen in the future, mostly negative, and we're sure about it. Let's say you have an exam on Monday, and you're saying, I know that I'm going to fail that exam. Or maybe parents, you're starting to be fearful about your children and their future. Or maybe even had some fortune-telling thoughts about coming to church today. Oh, I know that this is going to happen. We do this a lot. But we're not alone in this. There are many examples, even in God's word, of fortune-telling. And one of those examples is found in Exodus chapter 16, where it talks about the Israelites just walked through the Red Sea. God had performed a huge miracle. And what did they start to do? Murmur and complain. Are we guilty of that? And what we see is, oftentimes we read the text and we think, oh, it's because they're hungry. But Ellen White adds a point that's really powerful. She says this: they had not as yet suffered from hunger. Their present wants were supplied, but they feared for the future. They could not understand how these vast multitudes were to subsist in their travels through the wilderness. They didn't realize what God could do for them. And in imagination, they saw their children famishing. Were their children famishing? No. God had given their needs, had supplied for their needs. But in imagination, if in their want they would call upon him, he would still grant them manifest tokens of his love and care. He had promised that if they would obey his commandments, no disease should come upon them. And it was what? Sinful unbelief on their part to anticipate that they or their children might die of hunger. Much of anxiety is actually anticipation, imagination, fear of the future. And we cannot just say these are just our thoughts. This is sinful unbelief, the power of our thoughts to distrust God. Now, don't be discouraged. God gives us the solution to these fortune-telling thoughts, and he recommends that we look at the birds, look at the flowers, look at creation, see how he takes care of them, and then you realize, I'm so much more of value. God will take care of me. And then I love this question that challenges us. Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? It's a rhetorical question. The obvious answer is no. And yet we still try to worry. And then the section ends by saying, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. This is a command that we are too often breaking. For tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Is that true? Yes. God's saying, just be faithful for today. If you're worried about your test, study today. If you're worried about your children, invest in your children today. Today is what's before you. And trust God with tomorrow. And the secret to this is found in the verse before. But seek first God's kingdom and his righteousness. And all these things, all the things that you need, all your worries will be supplied, will be given to you as well. And I want to challenge you all to take those fortune-telling thoughts, notice when you're starting to worry about tomorrow, and bring that captive to Christ.